I love, love, love television, but I also love growth. And one of the things that I tell a lot of my friends is, yes, you can do something for a really long time, but when you get to a certain point, you can then be more strategic about your skill set. How else can you use your skill set to elevate yourself in business? I don't want to be doing the same thing for 50 years.
Hi, friends, and welcome to the Next Best Thing podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Cline-Thomas. Now, I'm here to help you navigate all of your career and life transitions. And as we like to say around here, a pivot and a plan B are not required. Now, I get it. Launching into your next can be difficult, especially when you've spent so much time in one career and one industry. I'm not talking about 2 or 3 years. I'm talking about decades of sweat equity, of making sacrifices to climb the ladder of your specific career. And you may also have children. You may have a spouse. You probably have big adult bills. I get it. The fear is that even making a slight change would be taking a step backwards, possibly, or a step to the side, especially when a step forward isn't always guaranteed. That's why I really wanted to introduce you to today's guest. She's Candi Carter. She spent 30 years as a television producer. She was a senior producer of the legendary Oprah Winfrey Show, the executive producer of The View, and the showrunner of the Tamron Hall Show. But now she's a chief content officer at Knocking, which is an e-commerce production company responsible for TV spots like CBS Deals. It's a job that was already in her orbit. She just had to look at the opportunity a little bit differently. Before we dive in, go ahead and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Not only will it make sure that you never miss an episode, it will also help get this great content in front of more people. Also, allow us to send you a newsletter and get next nuggets delivered directly to your inbox. We'll provide more information about these interviews, provide more resources. Just go to the website, thenextbestthingact.com to sign up. Again, that's thenextbestthingact.com. Scroll to the bottom and go ahead and sign up. And we're going to put a direct link in the show notes. All right, let's go ahead and get into this episode with Candi Carter. Oh, Candi, thank you so much for being here. Again, it's so great to see you again. It's been a while.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I had a friend earlier in the summer kind of reach out after you wrote that LinkedIn article, blog post about your transition. And I read it and I was like, oh no, this is so, so good. And there was a part that stood out to me. You said that I always tell people I'm the chick who jumps off the building knowing a parachute will open. It's scary at first, but the thrill and excitement of doing something new and accomplishing something big always outweighs the fear of taking the leap.
That's right.
You sound like you're in your 20s. Like that's like what somebody who just graduates from college, you know what I mean? That's like the optimism and the enthusiasm of somebody who's, in their 20s, just into the workforce. After you're in it for a while, you can get jaded and then you get responsibilities. How do you keep that optimism and just that drive for like that openness to let's go see what else is out there?
You know, it's so funny. I say yes to everything. My joke is I don't turn anything down but my collar. Okay.
Okay.
And it's true. And it's who I've been for the better part of my life. I even think back like years and years and years ago when even just going on a date with some random guy, I wasn't particularly into the person, but I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. Like, say yes to everything because I always say you never know what experience is around the corner. You never know who you're talking to. And for me, risk is not risk. There are a lot of people that are risk adverse. There are a lot of people very close to me who are risk adverse. For some reason, I'm not fearful. And I will tell you, my girlfriend, my best friend, her name is Dr. Lisa Thornton. She's a very even person because she's a physician. When things happen, she stays calm. She kind of works through things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone to her with many a big problem. And she said to me one time, Candi, relax, go to the worst case scenario and back into it. And I
Mm,
thought, that's interesting. So I assumed that nothing was going to work. And when I got there, I was like, okay, this is actually doable. It's not ideal, but it's doable. And that changed my entire perspective as I got older. Because when you're young, it's easy to say, I'm jumping, I don't care, it'll work
mhm.
out, right? Because you're young. But once you get older, I'm 55, I'll be 55, the stakes are much higher, right?
Right,
You
right.
have family, you have to provide for people, things are happening, but it's no reason to not live your life to the fullest. And so what I do is I go to that worst case scenario, say, okay, I'd be okay. Not ideal, but I'd be okay. So I'm going to take the risk. And
Mm,
it's a really great exercise because I think a lot of people freeze, right? And then they go
yes.
nowhere, right? They have these big decisions to make and they can't see ahead of the decision. You have to take yourself all the way there, feel it, understand it, see what it is. And that actually gives you, it just kind of opens a gate to say yes and do it. But I've always been that way. I'm that way differently now because I'm older.
Hmm. No, I agree. I ran for me the worst case scenarios in my mind. And then I was just like, you know, it's really not so bad. What the
No,
worst case I
right.
could think of really wasn't so awful when I named it and defined it and things of that nature. So,
But
how did,
real talk, wait,
hmm
let me just say something. In real
yeah.
talk, though, you might go to the worst case scenario and it's not doable,
Hmm.
right? You may not be able to afford your lifestyle, eat, provide for your family. And in that case, you have to figure out a way to carve time in your life to at least try the things that you want to try. It's not available to everybody. But I remember I this morning I got up at 5:30, I went to 6 a.m. yoga. If I want to work out, it has to happen in the morning.
Hmm.
And when I was at Oprah, I used to always get up at 4:30 so that I would have from 4:30 to 8:30. That's 4 extra hours a day. A day. That's 20 extra hours a week to do you. Kids are asleep, the world is asleep. You can work on a project, you can work on a new business, you can work on a book, you can exercise, you can cook your meals, you can do a lot and you can get a lot done. So, yes, go for it, jump off the building, go to the worst case, figure it out. But if the worst case is the worst, don't quit your day job. Get
Right.
up earlier, schedule time for you. And that is the thing that's so important that I do. My schedule has as many meetings on it for work and extracurricular and my foundation and my organizations as it does for Candi personally, right? So I just wanted to make that point because I don't want people to go to the worst case scenario and then have a worst case scenario.
Right. No, that makes sense. I'm glad you
There are
did
ways
that.
to do it. Yeah.
No, I'm glad you did that. So, when did you do that? Have to alter your schedule to like create more time for yourself for exploration once you felt like, all right, I think it's time for a shift right now? How did you kind of
100%.
navigate that?
Well, I'm always somebody with a side hustle because I I love I know that I can make things happen, right? I
Mhm,
know that I can impact things. So I started a foundation for kids with special needs. It's called We've Got Friends.
mhm,
And that's something that I carved time out of my life for the past 6 years to get it off the ground, to employ people. We do hangouts for teens with special needs. It's grown from one group to serving over 600 families in New Jersey. There's a staff of, I don't know, 10 or 12 people. And I have to get up early to do that, right? But it's
mhm.
not just that. I've always had things that have interested me, and I take advantage of that because I always tell people, yes, you can go to work every single day, and I think it's really important. But I think you're a better employee when you're a better human. And everybody should give back. Everybody should find a way to use their talents to help other people. So, working in media, I always found a way to say, hey, you need me to write a press release for you because I can do that in my sleep. I know it's not easy for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's what I do. Everybody has a skill set that they can lend to an organization or something and just be of service to humanity, right? It's important. And when you do that, you become a better human. A better human is a better employee, right?
Mm-hmm.
All businesses should encourage their employees to volunteer and to do things and to help with people who have less, because then you are full, right? And everything's not wrapped up in one basket. And if one little thing goes wrong at work, you see those people who just spiral and implode because they don't have anything else, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
really important to have perspective around your day to day and your life in general.
So, Candi, do you have Beyonce's 24 hours or do you have the rest of our 24 hours? Because your job was so high stress, high pressure. And so how are you? I understand waking up early and all of that stuff to get things done, but energy is such a finite resource. How is your energy distribution? How are you managing that?
You know what's interesting? Everything doesn't get done.
Hmm.
I tell people do one thing every day.
Got it.
My job, obviously, is the priority. But for other things, you can engage yourself in other things, but don't think you're going to get 15 things done every day. You might
Hmm.
just get one thing done, and that's okay. It's do one thing every day. You really have to manage your expectations, right?
Okay.
So you can be impactful, but it doesn't all have to happen at one time, right? And I think that's the thing, that people will take on something and then they have their expectations for what they can do are too high, and then they get burnt out, and then it's not pleasurable,
Hmm.
it's not fulfilling, it's a chore. You never want it to be a chore. So if you're going to engage in something else, make sure, number one, that you can carve out the time. You might have to get up a little bit earlier, you know what I mean? Or you may have to stay up a little bit later, or you may have to carve out a few hours on the weekend, um, and just say, these 3 hours I'm going to dedicate every week to this.
Hmm.
And again, if you schedule yourself, it's doable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what were the rumblings that you were having and the conversations you were having for within yourself when it was kind of time for you to shift gears?
Well, it's so interesting because when you are 50, right? 50-ish, you're at a point in your career where you've worked for 30 years. So
Mhm.
you're very good, right? So I understood show running, The View, Tamron. I worked on numerous shows. I executive produced numerous shows. I love the challenge of starting up a new show. I love the challenge of meeting a new host, finding their voice, really crafting an incredible TV moment every day that brings out their best, that has a real
Mhm.
authentic connection with the audience. There's nothing like it. I've never worked a day in my life. I love, love, love television, but I also love growth. And one of the things that I tell a lot of my friends is, yes, you can do something for a really long time, but when you get to a certain point, you can then be more strategic about your skill set. How else can you use your skill set to elevate yourself in business? I don't want to be doing the same thing for 50 years,
Right.
right? I want the ability to learn new things. It's very exciting. So when I was at Tamron, I brought a company in, Knocking. So I'm the chief content officer for a company called Knocking. Knocking produces products inside media. So we do CBS deals. If you watch CBS
Mhm.
mornings, you'll see CBS deals on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, and their products, they're discounted. It's a really fun segment. Viewers love it. It's exciting. We find products that you don't find just anywhere, which makes it really cool. And you save money,
Mhm.
right? And that is television, but it's the future of television. And there was a lot to learn. And as I transitioned off of the Tamron Hall show, I thought, there's this business right in front of me. They can use my expertise. I can use their expertise. I can now go back into my 30 years of television and
Mm-hmm.
impact the businesses of people that I've grown up with in the business, right? And so that was an opportunity. I don't look at anything as like it's all opportunity. And I always tell people, if you can find the space, like a lot of opportunity comes out of frustration, or a lot of
Mm-hmm.
opportunity comes out of change, or I have a lot of friends in television who've been laid off. And I said, it's not the worst thing. It's not
No.
it feels like the worst thing.
Right.
I said, but how many times have you actually had time to think about what you really want to do in life? A lot of us just go job after job after job after
Yes.
job. If you can afford it, take a minute, really think through what you want to do. How do you elevate your experience to the next level? What are the adjacent businesses in your life, in your world, in your orbit, right? That you can lend your skill set to. You're already doing it. So I was already working with this company. I knew how they operated. They knew the marriage, perfect marriage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Their lane, my lane, and we're making magic. And so I think people should shift their paradigms. And it's never like, ooh, what was that? That moment. No, no, no. What was the opportunity that you found? What was the opportunity? And that was an opportunity. Listen, I didn't know how it was going to go. I'd never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's when we go back to the parachute. I jumped. I'll learn. I'll soak it up. I'll do my best. I'll use my years of experience in this area to then impact this area. And it worked. And listen, everything's not going to work, but guess
Right.
what? That's a great experience too.
Right.
How do you know if you never try? How do you know?
And I'm in the space of pitching myself now to those adjacent kind of businesses. And there's
Yeah.
a lot that I do know how to do that translates one to one. But
Mm-hmm.
how were you able to kind of pitch yourself in the space of the things that you haven't been exposed to that you needed to learn, knowing that you're a quick study and you can do it, but you didn't have that one to one experience?
This is what happens for a lot of people, right? You're not making friends. All networking is making friends. And what a lot of people do is they work, they keep their head down, they look up, they don't have a job, and they're like, oh my God. Or they transition out, they go, oh my God. And I got to now pitch this person, pitch that, but they don't have any friends.
Mm-hmm.
Friends hire friends. So people talk about networking. It's like, well, what is networking? What is networking? Well, let's just back into this for a moment, right? So for anybody listening who you might be my age, or it's never too late. But again, that goes back to that say yes to everything and everybody, right? If you are in a particular field, find organizations that are like organizations that support your field. Go to
Mm-hmm.
everything they do. Go out and meet people. Go out and meet people go out and meet people in areas that you think you want to do. Go to meetup.com. Go
Mm-hmm.
on, there's all kinds of ways, Facebook groups, there's all kinds of ways to find groups that support certain industries. And you go and you start making friends.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the deal. Networking is a bunch of balls in the air, right? I meet you, you're a ball. I had lunch with somebody earlier, that's a ball. That person's going to introduce me to two people, that's three. You and I might connect and you say, hey, you know what? I enjoyed our conversation. I really want to introduce you to that person. Throw them up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not meeting people because I necessarily want something.
Right.
But at some point, you're going to have all these dots in the air, and somebody's going to connect the dots. And they're going to say, hey, I'm looking for somebody for this position. Well, I just met with this young lady. She was fantastic. What's her name? I met with her too. I really like her. That's how it happens.
Right.
So people right now, 40% of your job is making friends.
Mm-hmm.
This way, this way, this way, and this way,
Yeah.
right? People more senior, people less senior, people equal to you, people outside of your organization. For young people, I always tell college kids, if you're wealthy, then go to your country club, go to your parents' friends, Talk to them, get to know them,
Mm-hmm.
go to their offices. If you are not wealthy and you come from a poor family or a family that doesn't have an education, go to your college, talk to your professors, talk to your
Mm-hmm.
teachers, have them introduce you. That's how it works. And trust me, if you're a hungry kid or you're a hungry young person and you show that and you're authentic about it, people will help you. They will
Mm-hmm.
introduce you to folks. And that's all it is. So I guess the long answer to that short question is you shouldn't be pitching yourself to anybody. You
Mm.
should be touching base with your friends. And if you are doing what you should be doing, right, that transition isn't that hard. The problem is a lot of people get comfortable and they
Mm-hmm.
go to work and they come home and they go to work and they come home and they don't do anything outside of it. And then you're going to look up and the world will have passed you by because the other great thing about taking advantage of groups and things like that, you learn about new technology, you learn about new whatever. I'm going to take a course on AI. I'm going to this conference. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Get busy.
Yeah.
Get
No,
busy.
that's really, really good. And you're excellent at that. Are you extroverted?
I am an extrovert.
Okay,
Yes.
because I would have said that, but I don't know. Because sometimes people say I'm extroverted and I'm absolutely not at all. But yes, I've seen
But
you
you
out.
don't need to. But
You
you
don't
don't
need
need
to
to be an
be. You
extrovert.
don't need to be.
No.
Because for me, I just set okay, I'm going to go to this thing and I really want to really connect of just like
Hmm.
real genuine connection with like 3 or 4 people. And I'm really
Right.
good on the follow up on the backside of like, let's go to lunch, let's grab drinks, let's, get on a call real
Coffee
quick and just,
shop.
yeah, just
Yeah.
to hang out and just real life to just connect on just connection level. But I think that a lot of people make it transactional though, which
Well,
creates
I
a
think that's the
barrier.
mistake. That's the mistake. It doesn't have to be transactional because if you do it before you need it, there's no reason for it to be transactional. You understand?
Right.
So if you take this advice and you're working right now and you say, okay, I always say talk to 2 to 4 people a week. So it's calling somebody you know and haven't talked to in a while. It's a new person. It's reaching out to a friend who may know a friend. 2 to 4 calls a week. Write it down. Keep yourself honest, right? And do it while you don't need anything. So then it doesn't have to be transactional. And just be curious. Tell me about what you do. Oh, that's so interesting. Tell me more about that. Okay, really? And then how long have you been doing that? I mean, it's just making friends.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
It's
so good.
I cannot stress it enough, and people do not think that it's important. It's more important than you can imagine if you want to live the life that you should be living. Because if you're not out there asking questions, how do you know what's out there for you?
Right. That's a big part of people not even knowing. I've had a conversation recently with people just not they did the business, they
That's right.
knew how to move up, but they don't even know
Hmm.
that a whole digital economy is out there. They don't know what
That's
else is
right.
possible. Like, and so that causes so much frustration and fear, In your transition, what would you say have been the greatest parts of your transition and what have been the biggest challenges as well?
I have to tell you, I love a pivot. It's
Mhm.
always scary. I mean, listen, when I say I jump off the building, I do. It doesn't mean I don't get a ping of fear,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It doesn't mean that I don't get that pit in my stomach, right? Because I have children, I have expenses, I have a husband, I don't want to move. At one point I transitioned off of Tamron and I took off 3 months. Now
Mhm.
that's the best part because in 30 years, I've never taken a break. I've gone
Mhm.
from job to job to job to job. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to just think about life and what I want to do. Now, I am blessed and I have the luxury to do that. Everybody does not. And
Right.
I'm acutely aware of that, right? However, if you don't and you are looking and stressed out, carve out an hour of your day to say, none of this is actually happening. What do I really want to do in life? Find a space, meditate, close your eyes, think about it. You may not have time like that, but you can find some time in your day to just decompress, do yoga. I went to Newport, Rhode Island. I wanted to go by myself, but my husband tagged along. Um, I just wanted to go somewhere in driving distance. So I drove and I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they have this walk where you're right on the water. And the sun was coming up. And I mean, I've never done that, and I just sat there for like hour and a half and just took it in, thought about life. I've never done that. And so after that point, and this was a great thing that came out of that break, I said, I'm going to live my life like I'm on vacation.
Mm.
So because I never carved out time for myself. And so in the morning, I get up early enough that I have time in the morning. So I will make tea and I'll go sit on my front porch for a half hour and do nothing. And just do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Get a chair, get some fresh air, take a walk, whatever. But I started bringing time into my day. I can only do it in the morning. It's the only time I can really control.
Right.
So that's when I did it. But, anybody could do it at night. You can do it in the evening. You can walk by yourself. You can walk with somebody, but just give yourself some space to think. And that is one of the best things that came out of my pivot and my transition.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, what's Candi right now versus Candi before? What's the difference
Are
in
more
you?
relaxed. Well, first of all, I'm not show running.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are the executive producer of a talk show, it is nonstop,
Mm-hmm.
7 days a week. When I took over the Tamron Hall show, it was the week that New York shut down
Shut
from COVID.
down. Yes, I
There
remember
were
that.
no shows on the air. We got the Tamron Hall show back on the air in 2 weeks. We were working 20-hour days. It was exhilarating. And again, I love a challenge. So Tamron and I had to figure it out. And we were on Zoom scripting until 11 o'clock at night. We were finding these incredible stories around COVID, and we were able to share people's stories, and we figured out how to do it all on Zoom. We're dropping equipment off in front of our house. It was really incredible what we were able to do. So I love that. But just to be clear, 20-hour days. I mean, crack of dawn till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, back at it again. And we just worked around the clock. And that's what you do in that's television.
It's
Anybody
television, yeah.
anybody who works at talk shows knows it's a grind. And so that I don't miss.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly have a lot more time in my life to have a regular life. So, I can see my kids off to school. I can play golf. I just have time to do things. So that I appreciate. I think even regardless of making this pivot out of television, I would have pivoted out of show running because
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a burnout point. So there are other things you can work in development. You can do kind of other things in television aside from running a daily show.
And your knocking is remote, right? Completely remote.
Yeah, so Knocking's incredible. So we are a fully remote company, no offices. We do have a creator content house in New Jersey, which is where we film a lot of things, but we all work from home and it's great. So sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm at a cafe or at different places, which is really great. And it's just a different world post pandemic. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know that people in tech have probably done this for a while, but post pandemic, it just feels more acceptable. Even people
Mm-hmm.
who work legit, like not legitimate, but people who work standard corporate jobs
Mm-hmm.
are only going in 3 days a week. So it isn't that unusual because a lot of people are working 2 days from home anyway. So, but I love it. I love it.
That's amazing. The last segment I call ACT UP, ACT, those are my initials. And I'm
Oh,
asking, especially for people who are like, I'm 41. So, like, people who are
hmm
40 and beyond, who they're ready for something else. What should they do
hmm
today to get them from where they are to where they want to be?
Well, first of all, go make friends. I cannot stress it enough because getting out there and talking to people in a variety of fields, your field, other fields, it's going to help you. It's going to inspire you. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know what you don't know, right? And people in life in general have multiple careers, right?
Yes.
And so you have to make friends. That's number one. Don't quit your day job until you have enough information and friends in your orbit that you can then lean over and say, "Hey, you know somebody at blah, 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 blah. The second thing is just do it. Just do it, right? Um, but before you just do it, you can try it. So you can test run things. And that's the getting up earlier or carving out time in your life and doing one thing every day. And then once you start doing it, you might be like, you know what? I actually don't like this. So I'm glad I didn't quit my day job.
Have you tried some things that you're like, this is not for me. I thought it was one thing, but it really isn't that.
I did a kids video series when I was at Oprah,
Mm.
and we won an award. Actually, it was pretty cool, but it's not anything that I wanted to do in the long term. So it was an expensive experiment that was great, but I ended up not taking it further. But aside from that, now everything's been, like I said, starting this foundation has been incredible. It's growing, and I'm
Yeah,
very
to hear how
excited.
it's growing from when I talked to you in the middle of the pandemic to now. So tell us more about how we can stay in contact with you with the foundation, especially how we can support it.
Oh, that would be amazing. So it's called We've Got Friends. And if you just Google We've Got Friends NJ, New
Mhm.
Jersey, you can check it out. We do virtual groups for teens with special needs. So even if you're not in the tri state area, you can log your child on, your teenager, and they can enjoy other teens with special needs. What's super interesting about this, what a lot of people don't know, is teens with special needs do not have friends. A lot of those kids are district outside of their community. So the kids they go to school with don't live in their neighborhoods.
Mm.
My son is like a 5 year old, but he's 20. So I can't leave him alone with other children. So once middle schoolers and high school kids can kind of like be dropped off at movies and take the bus here and go to the football game, our children are at home. And so it's a very basic concept that we kind of create the space, we put the kids in it, and we fall back. And to our shock and awe, they find each other and they socialize in their way. It doesn't look like us always, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
they're there and they want to be in the room and they want to be in the space. And so, yes, Google, We've Got Friends, New Jersey. You can donate. I'd love it. Me personally, I'm on Instagram, Candy Carter TV. And I really appreciate you chatting. I think everybody should pivot at some point in their life. But if you don't pivot, at the very least, get out there, 2 to 4 people a week, make a bunch of friends, and be inspired.
I love that. Candy, thank you so much for this. And it's just like you're just such a ball of energy and light. And so I just always watch you from afar. I'm like, okay, okay, taking notes of what you're
Ah,
doing. And it's pretty amazing. Pretty
well,
amazing.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.